right, guys. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Devan Thompson, owner of Wildwrx, and you're listening to Wildwrx Radio right now. Today I'm sitting across the table from Mitch Baker. He is our first official guest on the show, and he is for good reason. I wanted to have Mitch on as the first guest because my first impressions of Mitch were that he was respectful, knowledgeable, passionate about what he does, and he's always willing to engage with people. So I consider Mitch to be a friend. We've had coffee a few times, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit more, and you will as well. So with that, I'll let Mitch introduce himself a little bit. I guess we can start with day one, little baby Mitch. From there.
That was a while ago. Up north, grew up by Ladysmith, small town.
Yeah.
You know, just spend time in the outdoors a lot. My family was into the outdoors a little bit, but I had one buddy of mine that we spent
All the time.
virtually every day
Okay.
out in the woods or out fishing or something. So we were always just wandering around with our 22s and shoot a squirrel, make a fire.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
adventuring, always out adventuring, but
Yeah.
we were always getting something to eat too
Yeah.
at the same time. So I grew up there and moved to lacrosse for college.
Okay.
In lacrosse, I got involved in some different conservation organizations. Met some people that had sort of a different mindset than what I grew up around. You know, just got into a sportsman's club down there, and the guy I worked for, he was really a good bow hunter, and was really respectful of the outdoors, and it just was a good role model for that. And you know, nothing against my family up north, but it was more just getting the venison. You know, it wasn't quite the conservation minded aspect up north, but so I got in with some real good people and met some folks that I played baseball, so I met.
I was gonna ask. I thought I saw something at one point that you played baseball.
Yeah, I played baseball in college, and then played some city ball after that, amateur league for another 8 or 10 years.
What position did you play?
You know, I started out when I came to college. I played virtually anything. Played second, third, outfield positions. I even caught one time in college. Just briefly.
I went down that road too. I didn't play in college ever, but definitely played in high school. Was your team any good in high school?
Yeah, we had a great team in high school. We were ranked up near the top all the time. We had a really nice crew of guys, and we didn't in high school. We didn't ever make it to the top, but in summer ball and Legion ball, we did. We won a state championship in Legion ball. We played the same teams and had some pretty good rivalries with guys, and then that continued on even into college. I ran into some of those same guys that we had rivalries with during high school days. So so it was a lot of fun. It taught me a lot about teamwork,
everything,
and camaraderie. And
when I was a sophomore in high school, I was fortunate enough that senior class was really good at baseball, and they kind of brought me on as well as a few other sophomores towards the end of the season, and we kind of rode that wave, and we ended up winning the state championship for Portage that year. I didn't hardly contribute at all.
You got to pinch run every now and then.
Yeah, it was fun. Baseball's a good sport.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And when I got involved in the summer league ball down in La Crosse area, met guys from everywhere. 'Cause
Yeah.
lacrosse has got a few different colleges, so we had guys from Viterbo College and UW Lacrosse, and then we had guys from lacrosse that were back from college. So we had a really diverse group of guys.
Yeah.
A couple older guys. You know, there's no age limit in the city
Yeah.
all, but I mean, we faced some incredible talent.
Yeah.
And had some good talent on our team. So.
That's cool.
But through that, I met a friend of mine, now one of my best friends from Montana, and so
He went to lacrosse there?
he ended up going to Viterbo.
Okay, yeah.
Great baseball player, but super good guy. And
Yeah.
he invited me to come out to Montana, and actually I went out there to brand cattle the first time I went out, because they still do that out there.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
the law.
Yeah.
So the first time I went out was for that, but then I eventually started going out there hunting.
Yeah. It's a dig team, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, it's beautiful out there.
I went to Colorado when I was really young. Barely remember it, and then since then the furthest west I've been is like the Badlands in North Dakota. So I'm itching to get out further. I think, just the openness and the mountains really pull you.
Yeah, and he lived in eastern Montana, so it's sort of Badlands area, you know, some rugged
I love it out there.
gumbo, just some really interesting country. But in some places you look out across the pasture and you think, well, I can walk over those power lines over there. There's about 8 ravines in between that are rough, and it looks like an easy walk, and it ends up taking half a day to get there. So, so I learned that the outdoors is different everywhere.
Yeah.
It's, starting there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just built on trying to spend more time out there.
Yeah.
Hunt a little more.
Yep. Is lacrosse a pretty active school with like natural resources and that sort of thing? It seems like they hold events every once in a while that are really geared towards environmental.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They're not as much as, like, say, Stevens Point.
Yeah.
But it's a great town.
Yeah, the area.
The area is great for it, and there's a strong community and conservation there.
Yeah.
I mean, hunting and fishing is big. Right on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know that the school itself is
geared towards that.
It's geared towards it, yeah. But yeah, great community for it. So yeah, that kind of brought me to getting involved in an outdoor club there, and with the same people I played baseball with, a lot of them, and met some other people, and got involved in construction industry through those friends, friends in the outdoor club, and just started getting involved in more conservation groups and doing more beneficial stuff for the community. We held a couple events where for a group that was just working to provide opportunities for disabled folks to get outdoors.
Yeah.
So hunts, they would raise money to put permanent blinds up on some properties that were donated, and boat launches that were handicap accessible, and things of that nature. We got involved in working with them, and we got involved with working with the DNR on some projects. There was a county park up there that was just overpopulated with deer, and people could drive through, and people are feeding deer donuts out their window, and it was sort of sad. I mean, people considered them like pets,
almost,
but they were just ribs showing. They weren't getting any nutrition. They're overpopulated. There's no hunting in that area, of course. And you could look through the forest, and the browse line is up as high as deer can reach, and some folks from the DNR wanted to reduce the herd in that area, just to obviously to better the habitat for the herd. So we got involved in that, and with that other organization with some handicapped and elderly folks, we mentored some people, and they held a couple hunts in that area. You know, it was a little contentious amongst a lot of folks, but it was really good to work with those people that just don't have quite the same opportunities as everybody else, and so that was really rewarding. We, along with mentoring, we brought all the deer whole back to our club, and then the wildlife biologist did a lot of research, took a lot of numbers on them, live weight, we gutted them there, then they did a weight after they were gutted, and biopsied liver and
cool.
A lot of different things. So
right.
And then people got to take the meat home. So
that's always nice. That's always a plus. I guess I'd like to move now into the Conservation Congress. I know that you have some affiliation with that. Before I let you talk on that, I'll just share a little blurb I took off the DNR's website here, just so you all can get a better understanding of the Conservation Congress. It was created in 1934, and the purpose was to provide Wisconsin citizens with a local avenue for input and exchange concerning conservation issues. I have in 1972, Governor Patrick Lucey signed legislation that legally recognized the Conservation Congress to ensure that citizens would have a liaison between Natural Resources Board and the Department of Natural Resources. The Conservation Congress shall be an independent organization of citizens of the state and shall serve in an advisory capacity to the Natural Resources Board on all matters under the jurisdiction of the board. Its records, budgets, studies, and surveys shall be kept and established in conjunction with the Department of Natural Resources. Its report shall be an independent advisory opinion of such Congress. Does that sound correct?
Yeah. It's sort of it's sort of written as if a lawyer wrote it, but I'll add a couple of things. It was in 1934, the Conservation Commission recommended that they put together a committee to get increased public involvement in the outdoor management, outdoor resource areas. Because back then, the resources were not as plentiful as they are today.
And everything was decided by the state officials.
The legislature just decided things, and we weren't that far into regulations at that point. I mean, regulations started in the early 1900s, but the committee they put together for these recommendations was Aldo Leopold. One of the names in the world of conservation. Because he was a professor at the University of Wisconsin here. Harley McKenzie was the chief warden in Wisconsin at the time, and then the superintendent of game was William Grimm. They put those three guys together to come up with ideas, and they just proposed, let's do it by county. Let's get a committee for every county and gather input from people. So it was a revolutionary thing, and it's still revolutionary. We're really the only one in the country. Wisconsin's the only one that does this in this way.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
There's no other place in the country that has a conservation.
That surprises me.
Yeah. Where people can, obviously people can be involved in these other states, but not to this capacity.
To organize and organize.
They elect delegates from each county, five per county, and then anyone from the public can come out and say, I would like to propose that we do this. I mean, they have to do it in written format, but anything that anybody brings forward to the Congress at the county level could potentially become a rule for the state someday.
I had no idea how unique or special, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it really is. One example of something where a citizen brought forward an idea to the Congress, just an advisory, showed up and said, I would really think it would be a good idea if we had offered those leftover turkey permits for sale. That was just a citizen.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been
now people fight over.
Yeah, now people fight over it. It's a large moneymaker for the DNR, and those tags get used up because those are tags that they want to use up.
Exactly.
So it's pretty incredible what is done. I had one other thing: the vision of the Congress. Okay. I find it's really it really kind of hits the nail on the head of what it's about. The vision of the Conservation Congress is to strengthen and enhance our ability to gather and convey the wisdom and influence of Wisconsin citizens in the formation of natural resource policy, research, education, and conservation. So they just want to get people involved in the process and then people can't say that they just did this without our without our blessing.
So what is your role with the Congress? What do you do?
I'm a delegate for Sauk County.
Okay.
So I was elected at the spring hearings, which is held the second week of April, second Monday of April. It's April 8th this year. I've been on just over a year now.
Okay.
So there's 5 delegates from each county, and we collect information from the citizens through the spring hearing questionnaire, and also we're listed as the contacts for the county. So anybody can contact us at any time and say, hey, why is this happening? What did they do this for? Or I'm concerned about this, and we can get the information for them.
Okay. How many are there per county?
5 per county, 72 counties, so there's 360 that show up at the convention.
Okay. Was there was there a moment that kind of lit this conservation fire or passion for you that made you want to go and get involved in the Congress, or what really changed your thinking on that?
I guess it'd be about 10 years ago. My wife and I moved out to Arizona, and that was really my first taste of public land, the way that I look at it now. Big tracts of public land that is there for anybody to use. That was an eye-opener for me. A lot of people don't think of Arizona as a big, lush, great hunting or fishing area, but it sure is. It's a really diverse climate out there. But that was probably the first thing that started my
journey.
It started my journey towards I want to be involved in public issues a little bit more. And as well, prior to that, when I started seeing that there was conservation things to be done, through our outdoor club in La Crosse there, I started leaning towards it. But the big picture was the public lands issue, and then eventually I got involved with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, which is a big public land advocacy group, and from there I said, I should just start getting involved in a few more things where I can actually make an impact. So I threw my name in the hat for Conservation Congress. It worked out.
That's cool. That was one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on, because I feel like this whole conservation thing, everyone has their journey from from being a young kid out in the woods, like you said, with the 22s, I think we all kind of shared that experience, and then to grow into a conservationist, I think we all kind of have a different journey there. I think some people never make it out of the bloodlust of youth.
Yeah, I can guarantee some people never do.
Yeah. So just having an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, I think is important. And I think that you're a little further on that journey than me, so that's why I like to talk to you, because your insight on issues, and you've kind of, you've been doing it a little longer than me. So I always learn something, and
I'm glad I can convey
a
little knowledge. That's exactly right. A lot of people don't make that transition, and I think that's probably part of the reason why I wanted to get involved, is because I've been involved in a lot of conversations with people that are really uneducated when it comes to different things, and the predators is one of them. That's a hot button issue for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it gets to be, the uneducated talk gets to be so negative all the time too.
Yeah.
You never hear anything good coming out of someone's mouth about anything.
No, they're finding things and people to blame.
Yeah.
It's it's sort of I don't know if it's a camaraderie thing amongst some people where they just like to get together and complain about things, but I just thought that if I could get involved, I could be a conduit to to provide information, and along those lines, the Conservation Congress has a bunch of advisory committees, and I'm on the Outdoor Heritage Committee, so we're dealing with a lot of recruitment, retention of hunters, but just education of folks on what hunting truly is about and what it should be about. And the food aspect is a big one that people are really starting to
I think that's
get hold of.
I think that's kind of where I came into the conservation scene too. I think obviously Steven Ranella and that whole Meat Eater crew, especially with them being on Netflix now, and me being kind of the younger generation, it was easy for me to find, and really a lot of this conservation talk, a lot of this stuff is becoming more available and easier than ever to learn. You don't have to pick up a book or go to the library and find past records. It's all available, and I listen to podcasts constantly when I'm working, when I'm driving, and I think that was part of the reason for doing this too, is just it's easy now to learn something and to make a difference. So and hopefully we can make a difference. Just by getting the word out there. But I almost never listen to music. I never listen to radio anymore. I'll get in the vehicle with my wife and something will be on the radio and I've never heard this. Exactly.
I don't even know who this is. And, it's been out for a long time. I listen to podcasts.
I think it's only going to become a bigger deal too, the whole podcast thing.
Well, it's a great place to gather to share information.
Well, it's so easy too. Just put in some headphones and you don't have to watch anything.
There's a few of them I get on that I think, well, I should really be taking notes on this one.
I think about that all the time.
I'll have to wait and listen to this one when I have a notepad in front of me.
Because you forget it too if you don't.
Something that's too important.
There's some really good stuff out there for if anyone hasn't looked into it yet. The Meat Eater podcast is a great one. Even the Joe Rogan podcast, he's got quite a bit of stuff.
He's got some good conservation type hunting things on there. Whenever he has Stephen Rennell on there, it's pretty interesting. Talk about a lot of outdoor stuff.
Well, there is still kind of along the lines of the Conservation Congress. I know that CWD has been a huge issue in wildlife management and hunting and conservation for quite a few years now, and you've been I would say you've been instrumental in the dumpster program here, and that's actually how we met the first time, as I was working at the hardware store downtown, and you came in with some signs for the dumpster program last fall, and we got to talking, and here we are, probably 8 months later or so.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I put your contact in my phone. It still says Devan Thompson, interested in conservation. So I made sure I remembered who it was, and I don't think I'll change that.
Yeah,
that still applies.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
The CWD's been around for, I think they first found it in Wisconsin in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following year they tested 40,000 deer.
Yeah.
To see how far it had spread, and I believe it was somewhere it was around 200 or under 200. They found they tested positive that next year, but it's continued to increase in prevalence and spread from the initial area that it was found.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of things tried. Yeah. And
throughout the country.
We're, as far as the whitetail herd goes, we're the place that's had it the longest for the most part.
Yeah.
There's probably been more CWD tests that have been compiled by Wisconsin than probably the rest of the world combined.
Yeah.
So we have an extensive library of information that we've collected over the years.
Yeah.
But that said, the disease is still spreading. There's been a few things that we were doing that we're not anymore, like trying to reduce and keep the population at a fairly stable and moderate level.
Yeah.
Around here, the deer just can reproduce so fast, and they have food, and the crop fields. It gives them everything they need to reproduce fast, and we're not able to harvest them at the rate, or we're able to, we just don't, because it's not required.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I think a lot of people, I think Wisconsin has a lot of big buck hunters too, and I think that hasn't helped. I think it's great, the management for that, but you need to be focused on the herd as a whole as well.
Yeah, and that's what we've run into back in the days when we had earn a buck, where, for anyone who doesn't know, before you could shoot a buck, you had to shoot a doe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would get a sticker to go on your buck tag, and then that would make you legal. So that encouraged everyone to go out and shoot a doe to manage the population, and then they could go after their buck. But what that did was it kept the population from growing out of control.
Yeah.
And it was wildly unpopular amongst a lot of hunters. I liked it. I always shoot does anyways, because I'm filling the freezer for the most part, and then I'll go out and buck hunt later too.
Yeah.
But it was wildly unpopular, and enough people complained, and the DNR felt the pressure from the folks, and they kind of got rid of it in 2009, I believe. The DNR stopped using it as much, except for in the high prevalence areas. They used it for a couple more years, called it bonus buck.
Yeah.
But then the legislature wrote a law that said earn a buck shall be no more. So now we don't have that option anymore to even try to implement. So,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I sit on the County Deer Advisory Committee too in Sauk County, and we're trying to manage this population, and we don't have a lot of options.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what the deer per square mile is? I know that number changes, and every time it seems to surprise me, but
I believe overall, and I have the numbers scratched down here somewhere, and I saw them a couple days ago. I think in Sauk County, I think it's somewhere like 40,
that's what I thought.
45. And
that's a lot of deer.
That's a lot of deer for as many fields as we have.
Yeah.
Well, so that's just going per square mile. If you go per habitat area, like wooded area, I think it's more like 80.
Well, and you get out to some of these places in Sauk County, and you see people per square mile. There's one house, and then the next neighbor is 2 miles down the road.
There's a lot more deer per square mile than there are people in most of the county.
And if you think about it that way, if one guy is supposed to take care of his square mile, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and especially like you said, there's a lot of people just are kind of looking for the biggest buck they can, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's fine if they're not trying to put 100 pounds of deer in the meat in the freezer, but you have to create a system where you can incentivize people to lower the population. As Sauk County, we decided that 25,000 deer would be an appropriate level for Sauk County. This was 4 or 5 years ago. Last year, post-hunt estimate was at 37 something. So
has it been going up?
Just constantly going up every year. So we're 12,000 above what we deem to be an appropriate number. So that's 50% higher than what we want it to be. So it's really a hard thing. Yeah. And the nature of this disease, CWD, is that the higher the density of deer, the easier it can spread. It's spread by contact through deer. It concentrates in the soil as they defecate, urinate on the soil, and just that happening once by a CWD animal is not gonna make it so that the next deer is gonna catch it. But as it accumulates in the same areas, it becomes more and more infectious.
Yeah, and certain soil types.
It binds right to the clay. Exactly. It's not something that filters down into the bedrock. It just it binds itself, and it's right there on the surface. And it's a hard thing to deal with, especially when you have high populations, of high density of deer. So that's one thing that we'd like to see change is the population. I hear a lot of times when I say something like that to people who want to see as many deer as possible when they go out hunting. They say, well, you guys just want to kill all the deer. And nobody wants to kill all the deer.
Yeah.
We're all, wildlife biologists, myself, anybody who's interested in CWD. Yeah. We're all hunters. We want there to be deer. We want there to be a healthy population. We want there to be a healthy resource, and we want there ultimately to be meat when we harvest an animal. Yeah. And
healthy meat to give to your family.
If something tests positive for CWD, I'm not eating it. The World Health Organization, the CDC, says don't eat it. Yeah. And I'm certainly not. So
there's a few points I want to jump in here and say for anyone that doesn't know what CWD is, if we've just been going on about it and you're not sure, it stands for chronic wasting disease, and it affects the brain and nervous system, or just
the central nervous system. It's similar to mad cow disease in cattle. Yeah,
and neither of us are biologists. There's so much information out there on CWD and plenty of conspiracy theories to follow, but anything through the state is usually a good resource to check out.
Yep, I follow, where I get a lot of my information is from Brian Richards. He's the contagious, what is his title? He worked for the U.S. Geological Survey, for the National Wildlife Health Center out of Madison, Wisconsin. He is one of the foremost researchers on CWD. So when he says it, I believe it. He's been working on this thing for a long time.
When anyone dedicates their life to something, you can.
Also, Dr. Mike Samuel out at University of Wisconsin is a deer biologist as well. So I try to get my information from people that don't really have they're not there to make money. Yeah. They're there to research the animal and try to do what's best for the resource.
Yeah. You mentioned how ultimately, especially as a hunter, you want to have meat, at the harvest, and you want to have healthy meat. So something I wanted to bring up on that is I feel like one of the reasons that there's such an abundance of wildlife in these areas is because all the egg, they can eat corn and beans all throughout the summer and fall, and then come winter, that's when it really gets tough for them, because you think about 40 deer per square mile. Once all the food's gone, what's left?
Yeah. They're limited on. Yeah. They yard up.
Yeah.
A little bit in the fall or in the winter, and
what kind of life is that?
Yeah. You definitely don't want to see them suffering through the winter.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know if that's happening, but it's not doing them any favors to have too many deer per square mile.
Well, and like you said, yarding them up, that's only getting them closer. So they're coming in contact with each other more often. I just thought too, I wonder if if a deer were to die and they're starving, if they wouldn't go and.
I've heard stories of deer actually eating like birds.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard that. So don't. Don't. I'm not an encyclopedia. It might not be, but I heard it from someone who I thought was reputable. And I want to say there's a video of it probably somewhere on the internet. So.
Yeah, I've heard like eggs and stuff. They
eat eggs. So it's maybe not all out of the realm of possibility. But to your point that deer being that carcass when a deer dies laying on the landscape, if it's a CWD positive animal, that's a problem, because this disease concentrates in the spinal column and the lymph nodes and the brain. So if a carcass lays there and it eventually sort of melts into the ground, that spot, my feeling is that's going to be one of the most highly concentrated areas of those infectious agent. So
I would agree.
We want to try to keep as many carcasses off the landscape as possible, and that's where we sort of come into the dumpster.
How are we gonna do that? What is the dumpster program, and what is it, I guess?
Well, last year the Department of Natural Resources was asking folks to adopt dumpsters, which means the DNR has no money for it, and they want you to pay for a dumpster to be out on the landscape to throw deer bones in after you've harvested deer. A friend of mine, Doug Duran, really started a campaign to raise money for it. Got involved with a t-shirt company, Hunt to Eat t-shirt company, and made some t-shirts and sold them for donations for the dumpster program, along with donations from outdoor clubs and a lot of individuals. It was spent about, I think it was between $9,000 and $10,000 putting these dumpsters out on the landscape for people to throw their deer bones in during the hunting season. The idea, obviously, you're keeping potentially infectious deer carcasses off the landscape. And there's a lot of things we don't know about CWD, but one thing we do know is that this is something we can do.
Yeah.
It's easy to go throw your deer bones in a dumpster versus throwing them out on the back 40 and then having...
Yeah. Better be safe than sorry at this point.
Yeah, so we were accepting all deer bones, and based on the percentages of Sauk County and Richland County, we probably kept a few hundred CWD positive deer from ending up on the landscape.
That's awesome. These are testing sites too, or
some of them have the testing kiosks at them, but some of them are just sites for dropping deer off.
Okay.
And to be honest, a lot of people that dropped deer off were not interested in testing their deer for CWD.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but so inadvertently this program is getting people who don't care about CWD to actually do something about it in a roundabout way. So it's sort of getting everybody involved. We're looking at trying to up the amount of dumpsters for this upcoming year. It was a wildly successful program. We collected over 60 tons of deer carcasses in, I think it was around 10 dumpsters.
Yeah.
So it was well received at the Reedsburg Outdoor Club site. Guys would come in and say, I haven't seen any deer carcasses in the ditches.
Yeah.
Like usual.
Yeah.
But that's where people deposit them sometimes, because a lot of waste haulers don't accept deer carcasses.
Yeah.
So that's another thing altogether. But we've got people working on that as well, trying to get some other landfills to accept deer waste. But the idea of it is, let's do what we can to try to slow the spread of this disease.
If someone wants to help, where do they go? What do they do?
We're currently looking for volunteers to man these dumpsters. Just a couple days ago, I had a meeting with Senator Mark Klein, who is on the Joint Finance Committee, and we're working on getting some funding for these dumpsters this year, so we don't have to raise money. You know, individuals doing bake sales, selling T-shirts to raise money for dumpsters to save our state's deer herd is unsustainable. So it looks like if we can get something put together for them and show that we will have support and we'll have people to sort of monitor the dumpsters, that's sort of what we're looking for. Just people to monitor. You can go to the DNR's website and search carcass disposal or deer carcass disposal, and you can sign up for the Adopt a Dumpster program.
Okay.
And in this case, hopefully we'll have some funding and you won't even have to be paying for it. You'll just be monitoring it, make sure nothing that shouldn't be in there ends up in there.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any questions, they can contact me, and I can. This will certainly be progressing as we get closer to the hunting season,
right.
but we're working on it right now to try to get things moving.
Do you know if it's gonna be a September through December thing, or there's a few spots last year where it was, and then some where it was just the 9-day.
Yeah, it'll probably vary depending on the locations and depending on who we have willing to host a dumpster at their site.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of factors involved. You have potentially some rotting, smelling things, so it's got to be in a location that's easy to get to, but isn't offensive to the community. Right. So depends where we're at with those. But yeah, we'll be building on last year, and hopefully we can get a little bit of funding, and we're always looking for help. The DNR is always looking for people that are interested in helping out. So you can contact DNR, you can contact me, and I could put you in touch with the right people if somebody was wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've touched on a lot of the things I wanted to talk about. Is there anything on CWD or the dumpster program you want to mention before we?
I could go on for hours. There's a lot of things I got.
We can save that for another podcast too. We can go into more depth.
I guess I would say, the numbers really show that CWD is moving and the prevalence is ramping up incredibly. I was gonna bring some graphs. I gave them to Senator Markline the other day. I forgot to reprint some for you, but I'll tell you where to go to look at them. But southern Sauk County, just 20 miles south of here. 5 years ago, prevalence rate of deer tested was in the, I want to say it's about 4 to 5% range. Last year, bucks were tested at 55% were positive.
In Sauk County?
In one location in Sauk County, they've got it kind of broken up, but the one area they've 55% of the bucks tested positive for CWD, and does were up near 40% in that area.
Yeah.
So the graph is just ramping up exponentially.
Yeah.
And it's scary to look at it that way. How far are we from it being
apocalypse almost.
Yeah. There's research out there that shows that at a certain level of prevalence, there becomes a state at which there's going to be a population impact from the disease. I mean, like I said before, they reproduce really well in this area, so they've sustained themselves a long time with the disease around. But exponential growth in those graphs, which is we've got to try to do something. And we're working on that.
Well, and the dumpster program is only a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
it's a little step, but it's something that pretty much anyone can do. If you go hunting and you shoot a deer this year, bring it in, and it'll. Yeah, God, there's a lot of CWD things we can go into. I know something I kind of forgot about was the new idea of the pay for positives program. I guess we could bring that up quick. We don't have to go into super detail about it, but
and I'll start out by saying that this Payments for Positives was an incentive program. Kind of thought up by a former wildlife biologist that he just knows that something needs to be done, and to get folks to harvest does, you need to incentivize them. Earn a Buck showed that. The Earn a Buck program, you incentivized them by giving them a buck tag after they shot a doe. This was a program they wanted to encourage people to hunt in these areas with high prevalence and shoot deer. And if they got positive deer, they wanted to reward them with a money payout, as well as landowners a money payout. So if you shot a deer on your neighbor's land, your neighbor would get, say, $500 and you'd get $500. And so it would incentivize people to go out and use their doe tags that have been allotted by the county, because the counties are offering a certain amount of deer tags and they're not getting used up. So that was the idea. In the spring hearings at the Conservation Congress, it was supported by the majority of people contributing. When we went to the Conservation Congress convention a couple weeks ago and the counties voted on it, the county delegates did vote it down. So it's not on the horizon for this year, but it did show that I look at the number of people who supported it from across the county or from across the state. I was really surprised with the amount that were in support of it. I look at that as support for something being done, something new being done about CWD.
Yeah.
So there's a good bit of support out there to do something about CWD, and that sort of shows it.
Yeah. I was gonna mention earlier, earn a buck. That was when I was just getting into hunting. So I was 12, 13, 14 years old when earn a buck was in effect. So that was kind of all I ever knew growing up was earn a buck for the few years that they did it. So it's never really been weird to me, or I never had a bad feeling about it. It was just something I was used to. So I wouldn't mind seeing anything like that again.
And the opposite of you are the people that have been hunting for 50 years.
Exactly.
They grew up and there weren't any deer around,
Yeah.
and there weren't doe seasons.
Yeah.
So no one ever shot a doe. And I still talk to people that said, never shot a doe, I never will.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what somebody tells them.
Yeah.
It's just the way they grew up, and that's the way it's going to be. So you can't topple all the all the obstacles.
Yeah. Well, and I
But
don't.
you can.
Yeah, I don't think we need to change people's mind on certain issues. I think they need to be aware of the fact that there are issues,
Yeah.
and
I've talked with a lot of people, and I've got a lot of things I keep getting myself into.
Yeah.
But one is just trying to educate people on CWD and the potential impacts that are coming, and I hope we don't have to see an area of the state really, really have something catastrophic happen before people start to realize that we should probably do something a little bit heavier than we are. So never-ending conversation there.
Right.
I could go on for hours.
yeah, we can attack that a different day. So with that, let's move into something a little more upbeat, maybe a little more fun. I don't think that we could sit down and have a hour-long conversation without talking about hunting a little bit. Just we're both hunters. We're both outdoorsmen. I think we share a lot of people that are interested in conservation share that with us. I think hunting is important. Is for people that don't hunt. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of stereotypes on hunters, which may or may not be true in a lot of cases. But there's a lot of really good people out there that are hunters, and I think half the reason they are good people is because they're hunters. They just a respect for the land and being able to enjoy being out in the wilderness and in nature.
Yep, I'd say that's a good way to put it. And like everything, there's good and there's bad, and there's people that don't really care about the resource, but they go out and use it anyways.
Yeah.
And there's people that would give up hunting to make sure that the resource remains healthy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people you hear on a lot of podcasts, at least that I listen to, there's a lot of those people would give up hunting if it meant that they could prevent wildlife from going extinct or you know anything bad from happening.
Well, and you look at the U.S. in general. I think that's one of the big marketing items of our country is that we still have these wild, almost sacred places that anyone, it's public land. Anyone can go and experience that.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing is hunters provide through not just through the tags that they buy, but through all the conservation organizations that they're involved with. They provide so much help for the entire ecosystem. You know, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the Mule Deer Foundation, I mean, there's Wild Sheep Foundation. These places raise money, yes for sheep or yes for elk, but a lot of it's for access, a lot of it's for habitat, and a lot of it's for things that are affected positively by it that they'll never hunt or they'll never, try to harvest.
Yeah.
It's, the Sheep Foundation is a great example of that. I mean, people work tirelessly to get to work with bighorn sheep and make sure their habitat is good and transplant them from different mountain ranges to try to keep the herds healthy. And the odds of any of those guys getting a sheep tag in their lifetime is very, very slim. And people will say, well, those guys are doing it so that they can have a chance to go shoot these things. Yeah. But the amount of habitat work that they do just benefits so many other animals. And it's when you really objectively look at the amount of money that they put in the amount of time into the environment. Yeah. Those hunters and those groups that are largely hunting groups really contribute probably, I'll just say an amazing amount of money towards those things.
The bighorn sheep are I know dealing with a similar kind of disease, the CWD too. I don't know if it's similar to where it's affecting the brain, but I know that it's significant enough to affect populations.
Yeah, the bighorn sheep, they deal with, and it's something similar to pneumonia, or pneumonia is what kills them, but the disease that they catch it from domestic cattle, domestic sheep. It's not pneumonia that they catch from them, but it's something that I believe lowers their ability to fight pneumonia off, or something like that, and it can be really devastating to sheep populations. Yeah. Obviously, I'm certainly not an epidemiologist and not an expert on sheep, but that is definitely something that really is constantly being worked on with all these outdoor organizations. They're trying to keep all of these animals disease free and give them the best possible chance of
a future.
And a future beyond where they live now. They're trying to just make sure that they have room to move and the travel corridors for some of these animals that travel great distances from their winter range to their summer range. There's constant work being done that you never hear about.
Yeah, right. I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about, I know that you're a bow hunter. Is that your preferred method of take, and why? And
that's my primary. I grew up gun hunting. That's all. My parents ever did. So I had some friends that bow hunted, but I would have been figuring it out on my own. I had a bow I shot when I was a kid, but I really never took the leap and just went out on my own to see if I could figure out how to bow hunt. I guess I had the tools, and looking back, I wish I would have, but I never did get into bow hunting until after I was, I think it's in my mid-20s when I finally, the guy I worked for that I was saying was an influence on me as a hunter, he sold me his old bow fishing bow. Oh. And then I just pieced it together and went out in the woods and bow hunted. Yeah. And it was a huge difference for me. You get to spend time out in nature without deer with deer acting the way that deer act normally.
Yeah.
And that was a big change from what I had seen during the gun seasons that I'd been involved with. And I didn't know it until I went out there and was hunting in the fall. You just get to observe, and that's what most of my hunting is observing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started out being, you know, I shot a doe, I think, my first year. And I said, well, I'll wait on the bucks. I'll wait for a bigger buck. And I think that's something that just keeps me out there longer. You know, I like a challenge. I like to do things maybe the hard way a little bit, and that's maybe why I like bow hunting, and maybe why I like to wait for a mature buck. But I go out there.
Yeah, it's the
I
experience.
harvest deer, and I just like sitting out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it the way you did, because I think that there's kind of mixed reviews for anyone who's unfamiliar with hunting or like even against hunting. Sometimes they see bow hunting as more pure or more natural, like the way it should be done. And then there's also the people that think that it's cruel and that, you know, a gun is obviously, it can be pretty devastating.
It's got more firepower.
Exactly. But I think the important thing is an arrow, regardless of how the animal is being harvested, you know, it's not going to care if it doesn't know if it's getting harvested by a gun or an arrow. And if you are practice and you care about, you know, the life of that animal, you're gonna do what's responsible.
Yeah, and if you're efficient, I could even argue that they might know less when you shoot them with a bow.
Yeah.
Because they didn't hear big loud bang.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it right and you, like you said, are responsible and practice and wait for the right opportunity to present itself and make that good clean shot, they don't know what happened, and they are deceased within seconds.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. My wife bow hunts now too, and that's really important to her, and that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to ever take a shot that is gonna prolong any misery for the animal.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's some perception that you can do it more effectively than a bow, but really, if you work at it, you can be very proficient and are patient. You have to be patient. You can't be taking shots through the brush and taking long shots. You just need to wait for the right opportunity. And again, that's sort of what I like about it. You have to be able to fool a wise old animal and get it close and be able to draw your bow back without it noticing. And it's amazing what they can notice. Any movement. So yeah, I guess I like to do it the hard way, but when I say it the hard way, it's not that it's less effective. It's just that it takes a little longer to get the right opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I like to do.
I think we got some questions here. There's some people watching. Let's see what. Maybe not. No, just people. Just people watching. But yeah, I'm glad we got some people listening. I think for the first real episode here, the podcast, an hour and 5 minutes is probably a pretty good.
That's
starting
amazing
way.
that
it went
been
quick.
that long.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, I think, some concluding ideas or statements here. Something that I'd like to leave people with is just, I think we need a real meeting of the minds with every group out there, hunters, anglers, campers, people that like to bike, people that like to hike or use state parks, or even just like, you know, seeing squirrels and songbirds in their backyard. I think all of us share a real passion and love for for the wild, and if we can come together on this sort of stuff, this isn't just a hunting issue. You know, it's not even just a conservation issue. It's the future. I've got young kids, and you know, I'd like for them to experience better than even we have it now. So, if we could do that, I would be happy.
No, I totally agree that all user groups can get together on a lot of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all want clean water, we all want clean air, we all want a good habitat for the animals that live here.
Yeah.
A lot of these things we can work on together if we don't get too strong-headed that our side is more important than the other side. We have a lot of things in common with the consumptive groups and the non-consumptive groups,
Yeah.
is what we call them.
Yeah.
And there's ways for everybody to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers group, and it says hunting and angling in that, but it's more about access to public lands and keeping lands pristine. And you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, bike trails and
Yep.
hikers and things that get involved in that group. That's one really good group that I encourage people.
I like TRCP too.
The
I do a lot
TRCP
of
is
them.
a really good one. So yeah, I'd say just get involved.
Yeah.
And be careful where you get your information from.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information out there that can lead you to give you the wrong idea about what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, either one of us can kind of decipher.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a lot of contacts that know what is and what isn't true information.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just be careful where you get your information from, and you know, get involved.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Sad to get involved, and now I'm really deeply involved.
Yeah. Yep.
So
All right. You good with that? Anything else you wanna add?
you know, for now I think that's pretty good. Just,
Yeah.
get involved. You know, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know and message me on Instagram or wherever.
Yeah, you can find Mitch Baker on Instagram. His handle is mitch.baker.100. He's got a lot of good stuff on there, especially if you're not if you're looking for more than just conservation stuff too. He's got a lot of other fun, interesting things on there. It's a good place to find out what's going on with Mitch.
Yeah, I try not to put too much garbage on. I don't put too much garbage on there. I just try to keep it informative and then inspirational, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say.
So you can follow Mitch there. Make sure you're following Wildwrx on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, all of them.
All the stuff.
Yeah, wherever is your favorite place. We'll be doing a lot more like this. I want to thank Mitch for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
Had fun.
it was good. We'll be doing it again sometime soon.
We'll say people can contact you if they want to get in contact with me as well.
Yep. All right. With that, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.